People of Reddit with sleep paralysis. What is the scariest experience you have had? Someone brushing a knife against their cheek saying they'd gut me and fuck my insides until I died if I made a single noise or tried to move. I tried to scream and someone came running, but they were still part of the episode and they jumped on top of me and started screaming in my face. The entire time I had been trying to move my fingers, I was slowly able to and rolled myself over to my light, flipped it on and the episode was over. I spent the rest of the night awake, in a cold sweat with the lights on. One of the worst experiences of my life. Thankfully I haven't had an episode in about a year. Finally breaking free from it, only to fall into another episode within minutes, over and over again. Sometimes when I break free I will hold my eyelids open with my fingers, so I can fully wake up and not fall back into it. Unlike many who suffer from sleep paralysis, I have never hallucinated during an episode. However, I have many times had episodes where I was face down in a pillow or my airways were otherwise almost completely obstructed. If I don't calm down quickly, I begin to hyperventilate, which just makes things worse. Exploding head syndrome, it's real, and it sucks. Just as you're about to enter deep sleep, boom, the sound of a gunshot explodes in your head. You can go back to sleep, but good luck with that. I've had sleep paralysis my whole life. I have very distinct memories of it as a child. I would always start with me waking up and there would be a man in my room in the corner, standing over me, etc. and I would scream for my parents but nothing would come out. Just quiet air, no matter how hard I tried to scream. Once I entered college it started getting worse, and I would feel the men run their hands over my body and stuff like that. I'm lucky I never had paranormal hallucinations like lots of people do, but it's really scary to truly believe there is an intruder in your room and he's touching you / about to rape you / kill you, and you can't scream. The scariest experience was earlier this year. I woke up and saw a man in all black disguise crouching at the edge of my bed moving onto my bed and I started to scream. I had this tiny shred of relief knowing that this is how all my sleep paralysis dreams are and that after a little while of trying to scream I would get to wake up. Except I actually screamed. I f***ing screamed. And I heard my scream echoing in my head and I screamed more and more. It was real. There really was a man that entered my room. Years and years of the same nightmare finally coming true. I've yet to recover. For me I've definitely had more terrifying things happen, like voices telling me to run, but the scariest was the first time. Nothing strange happened other than conscious paralysis. I just had no idea what was going on. It felt like I couldn't breathe. Thought I was gonna die. Am I the only one who avoids reading anything about sleep paralysis? Because I'm afraid, if I read about it, it will trigger it, and it will happen to me? Yeah? Thought so. A huge sinister face on the ceiling and a tiny shadowy figure sitting on my chest. Those are the only 2 times I remember hallucinated. So from the ages of around 10 or 11, until I was 22, when I went on Zoloft for an unrelated issue. It stopped that week. My doctor was just sort of like lol IDK brains are wish when I asked about it. I had sleep paralysis several times a week. I got very used to dealing with it, knew what it was and it never bothered me past the point of mild irritation, except once. So it's the summer, after I turn 18, and I decide to take a mid-morning nap. I lived in an apartment at this point. My room is relatively cramped, and I had started lifting weights when I was 14, so there's a weight bench in the center of my bedroom, taking up a ton of space. This will be relevant later. So I'm in my bed, starting to doze off. I'm still not sure if I actually fell asleep and then half woke up again, or if I just slid into a sort of half sleep, but suddenly I realize that I can't move. Oh, wonderful. This again. Well, whatever, it'll pass and I'll go back to sleep. Then, I feel something slide up my body. Huh, that's new. Then, like plunging into a cold pool, my control and rational understanding of the situation flees and I realize, with absolute certainty, that there is a f***ing witch in my room, holy shit, and she slithers up my chest, locking her mouth over mine. I desperately try to wriggle out, but I can't move, and I can feel her sucking the breath out of my lungs. I know that I'm dying. I have to move and get free. Now, for those of you who aren't lucky enough to suffer from sleep paralysis, when your motor control comes back, it comes back instantly. You go from being unable to move to having basically full control of your body. Well, full for just having woken up. This happens to me. I struggle out of the episode, and still in fight or flight mode, I shoot out of bed. I have just enough time to think, hey wait, witches aren't real, before I trip, still half asleep, and slam full speed, face first into the steel support beam of my weight bench. I had a black eye for ages, and whenever someone asked what happened, I lied and said that I fell down the stairs because I was attacked by a dream, which isn't a thing that you say to people that you want to keep interacting with. Only happened to me once. Woke up and couldn't move /scream /etc. Staring at me above was a giant black ragged sheet with glowing red eyes. Tried screaming and moving. Eventually a wave of warmth washed over me and I was back to normal. Got up, used the restroom, then got back into bed and fell asleep. IDK if this was sleep paralysis or night terrors, but for maybe a year, when I was 7 or 8, I had these awful dreams. They were about my size Barbie doll. I would have dreams where I felt awake, but I was asleep and the doll was terrorizing me. The worst one I can remember was us on the floor, and she was crawling toward me with this huge, angry smile, and I wanted to get up and move away, but I couldn't. I'm 19 now, so I don't remember a lot of them. I just know it went on for a while and my dad was worried because I'd be screaming in my sleep. They stopped when we got rid of the doll, and I had to see a counselor for a while. I have sleep paralysis a couple of times a year, and it's always an awful feeling of something very evil in the room, just standing and watching me, and I want to scream. I want to move, but I can't. Huge anxiety attack, where I get the feeling, if I don't move this instant, something awful will happen, and slowly a low growl comes out of my mouth, and I wake up. A couple months ago I had fallen asleep with my back to the ceiling. The episode started with my door creaking open and a creature coming and putting all its weight on me. It then told me not to move or it would kill me. It began to lick the rim of my ear with a long forked tongue. Right after that I was able to move and the episode was over. I've never been so terrified in my entire life. I don't get it very often anymore, but when I do I have nice lucid dreams of the same female demon type creature. Sometimes I think I'm pulling myself out of it when it just starts all over. Glad it doesn't happen too much anymore. I've only had one experience where I hallucinated. Saw some kind of an owl-faced man staring at me through a partly opened closet in the dark. It happened a few times, but I never saw something out of the ordinary. I experienced an episode while on my back and another while on my belly. In both cases I felt like a ton on my chest/back and I couldn't breathe or move. That's pretty much it. I've had it a couple times where I'm asleep but I'm not. I'm awake but can't open my eyes or move and you slowly stop breathing. It's only when you relax and let your body go is when you kind of snap out of it, at least for me. It felt like I was on an operating table with all these shadow being surgeons around me just observing me, waiting. My sister has bad sleep paralysis and always said there was a man that always walks into her room and watched her, and she heard voices and the man just looked over her and watched her sleep. She knocked out in the bathroom once, and when she woke up she said the man broke all the tiles in the bathtub and hung the voices by their skin and watched them die. She is now on meds for it. I have never experienced it and I really never want to because of all of the awful things I hear about it. I get them fairly often, still never gotten used to them. I have two main recurring ones though. The first is the scariest. I open my eyes and there's a person, usually a very gaunt, down on his luck looking man, just standing there, directly over me, staring at me. Sometimes they're further away, like across the room. The second is hearing a voice and footsteps from the hallway outside my door, telling me I'm coming for you. But the absolute worst is the layered ones. Imagine Inception. You have that terrifying experience, think you've woken up, and nope, still frozen and hallucinating. I've only had the imp sitting on my chest once, and that one wasn't so bad. I'd fallen asleep hugging my husband's back. When I woke up, his face was the wrong way round and that of a demon's. screaming at me. I was paralyzed in the position hugging him. All I could do was scream and do my methods to try and wake myself up. Used to get ones where a girl would stand in my doorway and stare at me without moving. They were pretty tame for a while, but they started to get more sinister. On of the latter occasions she made a sudden dash across the room for my bed. I managed to wake myself before she got to me. On another she stood at my door, but instead of coming through, she went out. Some creepy sinning occurred, and I regained control of my body. I sprinted to my parents' room and tried to get their attention, but all my words came out slurred or mumbled. So I tried bashing on their door, but I became weak. All the while the ambient voice of little girl sang about how she was coming for me, adding to the panic. Next thing I woke up back in my bed. Haven't had any for a couple years.